After that, the Crown Prince quickly found out who had informed on him. The next day, the bloody head of that person was hung outside the mansion of the Grand Secretary. Before dying, he had his tongue cut off and his nose and eyes gouged out cruelly. Sheng Jiaoyu had no intention of getting involved in these matters in this life. The Crown Prince was by no means the cowardly, kind, and compassionate person her father thought he was. The Crown Prince's scheming and means were so ruthless that they made her shudder. At noon, a Buddhist hall had been set up in advance in the Mahavira Hall. The Crown Prince held the incensed chopsticks in his hand, knelt on the futon with both knees, closed his eyes, and concentrated, holding his breath. There was a deathly silence in the hall. After a while, the man slowly opened his pitch-black eyes with a cold and indifferent expression on his face. He straightened up and inserted the incense chopsticks into the incense burner. The monks in the hall immediately began to chant scriptures and perform rituals to pray for blessings. Both Sheng Jiaoyu and Zhu Qinglin had to stand outside the hall, listening to the chanting of the scriptures coming from the monks through the door. When the religious ceremony was over, Zhu Qinglin took a couple of steps forward with his black boots and then suddenly turned around. His beautiful eyes like peach blossom fans looked over at her. "Brother Sheng, aren't you coming to worship the Buddha?" Perhaps because Sheng Jiaoyu had died once, she was more in awe than respectful of Guanyin and the Buddha. She hardly dared to look directly at the solemn and majestic Buddha statues. She secretly pinched her palm to make it hurt, took a deep breath, and straightened her cold and delicate small face. "Of course I am." She gritted her teeth and stepped over the threshold in front of the Buddhist hall. Without showing any trace, she lowered her eyelids, knelt in front of the Buddha statue with her eyes downcast, clasped her hands together, and bowed and kowtowed. Facing the Buddha, Sheng Jiaoyu didn't dare to be greedy in making wishes. Being able to live again was already a kindness from heaven. Zhu Qinglin glanced sideways. The young man kneeling on the futon had his eyes tightly closed, with a devout expression. His fair and translucent small face was lit up by the flickering candles in the hall. His jawline was exquisitely smooth, his nose tip was slightly upturned, and a faint tinge of color could be seen on his pale lips. Looking down, his throat was even thinner than that of his peers. Zhu Qinglin had no doubt that he could easily strangle him with one hand. He had a face that was red-lipped, white-toothed, cute, and likable. The things he did were really disgusting. The way he was eager to flatter the Crown Prince was not clever at all. He spoke clumsy, sweet nothings, and even dared to righteously admonish in front of them, directly pointing out their faults. He was just pretending to be self-righteous, aloof, and arrogant.